It is a Saturday morning in July, and you drove past the grocery store on purpose. You went to the farmer's market instead, the one with the hand-lettered signs, and the canvas tents, and the smell of cut grass in the parking lot. You found the melon table, and a man standing behind it with dirt on his work boots. The cantaloupes in the bushel basket looked real. Rough and imperfect and nothing like the uniform ones under the fluorescent lights. You asked him which one was sweet. He picked one up without hesitating and handed it to you with confidence. You paid $12 for it. You carried it home. You waited until Sunday afternoon, the right time, with the family there. You cut it open with a good knife. The flesh was pale, not the deep orange a cantaloupe should be. Watery and thin, with that faint, hollow flavor that tells you the vine did not finish what it started. You paid $12. You drove out of your way. You trusted the hand-lettered sign and the man with the dirty boots and the whole idea of doing the right thing. And the melon was worse than the $5 one from the grocery store the week before. That is not just a bad cantaloupe. That is a system that took your $12 and your trust at the same time. Here is what I need to tell you before anything else. The man at that market was not cheating you. He grew a real melon in real ground. The problem is that nobody on either side of that transaction knew how to tell the difference between a cantaloupe the vine had finished and one it had not. Without that knowledge, $12 buys you exactly the same disappointment as $5. There is no premium price for a ripe cantaloupe. There never has been. The signal was never the cost. The signal was always written on the melon itself, waiting to be read. My name is Elias. I am Amish and I farm in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, in the farmhouse my grandfather built in 1934. In the summers of my childhood, every woman in our community could walk up to a bushel basket at a roadside stand and come away with a sweet cantaloupe every single time. Esther's grandmother did it in 30 seconds. There was no mystery in it for her. There is no mystery in it now. Today I am going to walk you through 6 tests for reading a cantaloupe before you put it in your bag. All 6 take under 90 seconds at any store or market in this country at any price. And the last test, which I will tell you about right now so you stay with me all the way to the end, is one most of you already do in your own kitchen. You have just been doing it at the wrong end of the melon your entire life. Subscribe before we go further. Hit the like button and share this with someone who buys cantaloupes and hopes for the best. The hoping stops today. Before I show you what to look for, you need to know why these tests work. When you understand the reason, you remember the test at the market. Without the reason, you forget it in the parking lot. A cantaloupe does not get sweeter after it leaves the vine. A melon will soften on your counter. But the sugars that give it sweetness are fixed at the moment the farmer picks it. The vine makes those sugars. Once the melon is cut from the plant, the sweetness you have is the sweetness you will eat. No windowsill, no 3 days of waiting will add what the vine did not put there. This means everything you want to know about a cantaloupe is already written on the outside before you pay for it. You just need to know how to read it. Quick word before I show you exactly how we put this to work. A lot of the old methods my family uses never fit into a single video. That is what the book is for. A new edition is coming soon, updated and expanded, and it will be available only here on the Elias Homestead channel. The old edition was $47. This one will be $39. If you want it, it will be there. The first thing you do is run your thumb slowly across the netting, not quickly, deliberately, the way you would check lumber for a crack before building with it. The rough raised pattern on a cantaloupe is not decoration. During the final weeks on the vine, the flesh inside grows faster than the outer skin can keep pace with. The skin stretches, cracks, and heals, then does it again. Each cycle builds another layer of that raised corded pattern. The longer the melon stays on the vine, the more cycles it completes, and the thicker and more prominent the netting becomes. Run your thumb across a ripe cantaloupe, and you feel every ridge. It catches your thumbnail. It has real height. That is the netting of a melon the vine was allowed to finish. A melon with thin, shallow netting, barely raised from the surface, was cut while the vine was still building it. The flesh inside never concentrated. Nothing on your counter will fix what the vine did not complete. This test takes 4 seconds. Most people skip it and look at size and shape instead, which tell you almost nothing about sweetness. Start here. Turn the cantaloupe and look at the stem end, the slightly indented side where it was attached to the vine. There are 2 separate things to read here. The first is what farmers call full slip. When a cantaloupe reaches true ripeness, the plant forms a natural separation layer between the fruit and the stem. A truly ripe melon parts from the vine on its own, with nothing more than a gentle touch. What it leaves behind is a clean, smooth, slightly concave indent at the stem end. Stick your finger into it. It should feel gently cupped, with clean rounded edges, no rough torn surface, no flat cut mark, and no stub of stem still attached. If you see stem still clinging there, the farmer used a blade. The vine was still feeding that melon when the harvest came. The plant was not done, and the melon will never taste the way it should. The second check is at the same spot. Look at the ring of rind directly surrounding that indent. On a melon that ripened fully, to the point where the plant was already pulling its resources back, that ring has a faint dry quality. Pale tan, slightly dusty, not green, not moist. The tissue dried as the plant withdrew. A green, moist-looking ring at the stem end means the melon was still being fed when someone decided it was time to harvest. 2 checks, same spot, 20 seconds. A clean, concave indent with a dry, pale ring around it. That is what you want. The first time I describe this next one, people sometimes set the melon back down, thinking I am telling them to buy something damaged. I am not. I am telling them how to find the melon the vine was proudest of. After you have felt the netting thickness, tilt the cantaloupe toward the light and look carefully at the raised netting ridges. You are looking for very fine hairline fractures along those ridges, not breaks in the rind. Hairline fractures, barely visible, the kind that only show when you angle the melon into the light correctly. Here is why they form. During the final stage of ripening, the flesh inside a fully mature cantaloupe continues pressing outward with increasing pressure. The interior is still expanding. The netting, thick and well developed by this point, shows the faintest stress lines from that pressure inside. The flesh wanted to be larger than the skin could comfortably contain. This is a melon that was almost too ripe to wait. The vine finished every stage of its work. The sugars concentrated, the flesh filled in completely. A cantaloupe with these fine lines, still firm, with thick netting and a clean stem indent, is at the absolute peak of its ripeness. Eat it within 2 days. But if you find one and you know what you're looking at, you have found the best melon on that table. Before the last 3 tests, let me stop here. The 4th test is one most people have heard of, but perform in a way that gives them unreliable results. The 5th is one nearly everyone uses backwards. And the 6th is the most important test of all, the one I promised you at the start. If this knowledge is useful to you, subscribe right now. Share this with someone who has been standing at a melon table picking by luck and losing more often than they should. Everything on this channel is practical, specific, and old enough to have been tested by generations of people who could not afford to get it wrong. The last 3 tests. Pick up 2 cantaloupes of roughly the same size, 1 in each hand. Find 2 that are similar in diameter and hold them at the same time. A ripe cantaloupe is approximately 90% water by weight, and that water is loaded with dissolved sugars. It has real density. When you heft a properly ripe cantaloupe, it should feel heavier than you expect for how large it looks. The kind of weight that tells you the inside is full of something real. A cantaloupe that feels light or almost hollow for its size either never finished developing on the vine or has been sitting in storage long enough that it has been losing moisture from the inside. The juice and sweetness are not there. When you hold 2 melons of similar size and one is clearly heavier, that is your melon. Now knock on the heavier one with your knuckle. A single firm knock, A ripe cantaloupe answers with a low, dull, muffled thud. Deep, solid, not bright, not resonant. An unripe cantaloupe gives you a higher, ringing, almost hollow knock. Your ear learns the difference quickly once you have heard both side by side. Listen for the deep note. That is the sound of a melon that is full all the way through. Here I need to correct something, because this test is one almost everyone uses, and almost everyone uses it to pick the wrong melon. Most people look for an attractive cantaloupe, uniform, symmetrical, clean. That instinct is working against them. The color that matters is the color of the rind in the valleys between the netting ridges, the smooth skin visible underneath the raised pattern. On a ripe cantaloupe, that underlying rind is creamy beige, sandy gold, or pale tan, sometimes with a faint, warm yellow. The green is gone because ripening breaks down the chlorophyll in the rind, the way autumn breaks it down in a leaf. What remains is that warm, sun-bleached, buttery tone. An unripe cantaloupe, no matter how attractive its shape, will show green or gray-green in those valleys. The chlorophyll has not broken down. The melon is not finished, regardless of price or signage. The prettiest cantaloupe in the basket is often not the ripest one. A perfectly uniform melon can have green rind underneath and pale, watery flesh inside. The one that looks a little rough, a little lopsided, with warm sandy rind under thick, irregular netting and hairline cracks near the top, is the one that tastes the way August is supposed to taste. Stop reaching for the prettiest one. I want to be direct before the last test. The bold version of what I have been describing says, these 6 tests guarantee you a sweet cantaloupe every time. The plain truth is, they find you the best melon in that bin at that moment. They do not make a bad harvest good. If every melon on the table has thin netting and green rind and no smell at the blossom end, the whole lot was picked early, and no test will find the sweet one because it is not there. Come back next week or go home without one. That is what is honestly possible, and it is far more than most people walk away with. Now for the last test, the one I promised you. The stem end is the top, where the indent is. The blossom end is the opposite side, the rounder, slightly softer bottom, where the flower was before the melon grew. Most people, when they smell a cantaloupe, bring it up somewhere near the middle and take a vague sniff. That is not the test. Location matters. Technique matters more than most people realize. Before you smell it, press your thumb gently against the blossom end. Not hard enough to leave a mark, just enough to feel the surface respond. A ripe cantaloupe gives very slightly under that gentle pressure. Not soft, not squishy, just the faintest spring, like pressing on the heel of your hand with light pressure. That slight give tells you the flesh beneath has ripened from the inside out the way it is supposed to. A hard, rigid blossom end means the flesh has not finished. A blossom end that collapses easily means the melon is past its peak. What you want is firm with the faintest give. Now bring the melon up and put your nose directly against the blossom end, not near it, against it, and breathe in slowly. A ripe cantaloupe does not politely suggest its fragrance. It announces it. You should smell cantaloupe unmistakably through the rind, sweet, fruity, with a deep, musky undertone. The smell that used to fill a summer kitchen in August, that aroma comes through the rind because the aromatic compounds in the flesh have concentrated enough to push through the skin. The gentle press releases more of them. If you put your nose against the blossom end and smell nothing, just a faint vegetal smell, set that melon back. The sweetness you cannot smell at the market is the sweetness you will not taste at your table. What it smells like in the bin is exactly what it will taste like when you cut it. No waiting, no ripening on your counter will add what the vine did not put there. If it smells sour or fermented, set it back also. If it smells like cantaloupe, sweet and musky and unmistakable, that is your melon. The nose knows what no price tag can tell you. There is a reason most people have never been taught these 6 tests, and it is not complicated. The produce retailer, whether it is a national chain or a farmer's market vendor with a hand-lettered sign, does not benefit from a careful shopper. If you learn to walk past the unripe melons, those melons sit until they are unsaleable. The vendor absorbs that loss. There is no money in giving a customer a skill that makes them harder to sell to. So the knowledge stopped being passed along, not out of malice, but because nobody in the retail chain had a reason to carry it forward. The knowledge is not gone. It was simply not profitable to keep repeating it. You do not have to buy cantaloupes at random anymore. Run the number plainly. You pay $12 at the farmer's market because you believe you are buying something better. If that melon comes home pale and watery, you have lost $12 and the trust that made you willing to pay $12. That double loss is worse than the $5 grocery store disappointment because that one did not cost you your belief that doing the right thing produces a different result. Once you know the 6 tests, the $12 local-grown Eastern muskmelon, if it passes, is worth every dollar. These melons, when properly ripe, are not the same fruit as the Western cantaloupes shipped 6 days in refrigerated trucks. They are deeper in flavor, stronger in aroma, the kind that makes your children stop eating and look at the melon as if they have never tasted one before. But you only get that melon if you can identify it before you pay. That knowledge costs you nothing. 90 seconds. This week, go to your nearest market or store and pick up 3 cantaloupes before you choose one. Run your thumb across the netting and feel for real thickness. Check the stem end for a clean concave indent and a dry, pale ring around it. Tilt the melon toward the light and look for hairline fractures in the netting ridges. Compare the weight between 2 similar-sized melons and knock on the heavier one. Look at the rind color under the netting for that sandy golden tone, not green. And last, press the blossom end gently and put your nose directly against it. Buy the one that passes all 6. Bring it home. Cut it open the next day. Let your family taste the difference. Tell me in the comments which of these 6 tests you had never used before today. Be specific, because I read every single one and I will answer back. And tell me where you do most of your produce shopping. I want to know which parts of the country still carry Eastern muskmelons at farm stands. But here is the question I want you to sit with. You just learned 6 things that could have saved you money and disappointment every summer of your adult life. None of them are hard. None cost anything. 90 seconds. Given all of that, why did nobody teach you this until today? I have thought about that question for a long time. Leave your answer below. I am curious whether yours and mine are the same. I made a watermelon video and I stand behind every test in it. But there are 2 tests I did not put in that video, not because I forgot them, because when I described them to people before filming, more than one person told me they sounded too simple to be believed. Both of them work. Both are faster than anything in the first video. And at least one of them, when you hear it, will make you say out loud, "That cannot possibly be right." That is the next video. Subscribe so you are there when it comes out. Thank you for your time here today. Genuinely. Stay careful. Stay practical. And remember, the people who built this country with their hands knew things we are only just starting to remember.